We're now going to talk about how we can graph an ellipse once it's in standard form. And once it's in standard form, then we first find the center, then we find our major and minor lengths, which gives us our vertices and some other endpoints, depending on whether it's tall or wide. So the vertices are either tall or they're wide. Then we find our foci, and then we are ready to graph. So that gives us all the information we need. So center, major, minor, and then foci. And so here's some facts that you need to know. And it's really important. Notice that the book changes where the a squared is. So if the a squared is under the y squared, then it's a tall graph. And if the a squared is under the x squared, then it's a wide graph. But otherwise, everything's the same. Wherever the bigger number is, that will determine whether the vertices are in the x position or the y position, and the endpoints are in the other one. And then you get a graph that looks like this. So let's look at a particular example. And the first thing is, notice this isn't in standard form because that's not a 1. So the first thing we have to do is divide everything by 16. Well, 4 divided by 16 divided by 4 is 4, so it goes on the bottom. Then I get a y squared over 16 equals a 1. Now we're ready to go. Our center, since there's nothing inside parentheses here, our center is at 0, 0. And we need to find A and we need to find B. So using the book, A comes from the Y because it's bigger, so it's the square root of 16. B comes from the X, so it's the square root of 4. So A is 4 and B is 2. So we're going to go over 2 because that came from the X. And we're going to go up and down 4 because that came from the Y. And we just about have everything we need to know. The only thing we're missing are those two foci that we need. And so what we do is we take the smaller square number, and that's equal to the larger square minus c squared. So here we're going to add c squared and subtract 4. And we get c squared equals 12. So c is the square root of 12, which is 2 square roots of 3 once we break this down as 4 and 3. Well, when we come up to the 2 square roots of 3, that's the square root of 12. That's between 3 and 4. So our foci are between 3 and 4, and it's probably about right there and right there. And that's close enough. We just label this as 0, 2 square roots of 3, and this one as 0 minus 2 square roots of 3, and that'll give us our graph. But remember, the graph has to include the foci.